A 17-year-old girl, flying first class, is publicly accused of fraud by a senior flight attendant. The attendant, fueled by prejudice, sneers at the teen's ticket and calls security to have her physically removed. The entire cabin is watching as the attendant snatches the girl's ID, ready to prove her right, but her face turns to ash. She hasn't just messed with a passenger, she has messed with the White House. The karma that comes next isn't just a firing, it's a corporate collapse. This is the story of Flight 212 and the ID that changed everything. The humid, heavy air of a Washington, D.C. August hung over Ronald Reagan National Airport, DCA, like a wet blanket. Inside the terminal, the air conditioning fought a losing battle. Gate 34, designated for Transcontinental Airlines Flight 212 to LAX, was a chaotic microcosm of the city itself. Suited lobbyists checking stock tickers, families in matching vacation shirts, and quiet government types trying to be invisible. Among them, in the crowded Group 1 boarding line, was Maya Harris. At 17, Maya existed in a strange limbo. She had her father's keen, analytical eyes and her late mother's high cheekbones. She was dressed for a 5-hour flight in a way that prioritized comfort. Black leggings, a gray Stanford University hoodie, a hopeful acquisition, and worn-out Nike sneakers. Her noise-canceling headphones were draped around her neck, and she was deeply engrossed in a thick paperback, The New Jim Crow. She felt the familiar prickle on her neck. A man in an expensive, sweat-wilted suit was staring at her, then at the Group 1 sign, then back at her. Maya instinctively shifted, pulling her backpack closer. She was used to it. In this city, a black teen in a hoodie standing in the first-class line was an anomaly, a puzzle to be solved. Is she lost? Is she someone's kid? Did she sneak in? The gate agent called for first-class passengers. Maya shuffled forward. At the front of the jet bridge stood the lead flight attendant, Brenda Sullivan. Brenda was in her late 50s, with a helmet of blonde highlighted hair that looked stiff to the touch and a smile painted on with bright coral lipstick. She had been with TCA for 28 years, and she saw the first-class cabin as her personal living room. She greeted a portly man in front of Maya with a booming, familiar laugh. "Mr. Jacobs, good to see you again. 1D, as always. Can I get your usual scotch ready before we even take off?" "You know me, Brenda. Don't let me down." Then it was Maya's turn. She held out her boarding pass. Brenda's smile didn't falter, but it became a different smile. It was no longer warm. It was a bright, hard, questioning thing. "May I see your boarding pass, honey?" The honey was laced with a condescension so thick it was almost sticky. "Here you go," Maya said, her voice quiet. Brenda took the pass. She looked at it. Seat 1F. She looked up at Maya, her eyes doing a quick, dismissive scan from the hoodie down to the sneakers. "Are you sure? This is the first-class cabin." "Yes," Maya said, her patience already wearing thin. "Seat 1F. Brenda held the pass for a beat too long before handing it back, her coral-painted fingernail tapping the paper. "Well, go on ahead, all the way to the front, on your right." Maya murmured "thank you," and walked past, feeling Brenda's gaze boring into her back. She stepped onto the plane, the cool, filtered air a relief. The first-class cabin was beige and gray, with 8 large pod-like seats. Mr. Jacobs was already settling into 1D, across the aisle from her. She found 1F by the window and slid in. It was a small bubble of privacy. She stowed her backpack, plugged in her headphones, and tried to disappear back into her book. She was just trying to get to Los Angeles. Her aunt, her mother's sister, was waiting for her. This was supposed to be her 2-week break from D.C., from the pressure of her father's job, from the ghosts that haunted their quiet, secure house in Georgetown. She was vaguely aware of other passengers boarding, the low murmur of greetings. She saw Brenda Sullivan again, cooing over a small, yapping dog in a carrier held by a woman in diamonds, then laughing with a man who was clearly a frequent flyer. Through her music, she heard a voice. She ignored it, then a sharp tap on her shoulder. She pulled one headphone off, blinking. Brenda Sullivan was leaning over her perfume sharp and floral. "I asked for your headphones to come off, honey," Brenda said, her smile gone, replaced by a tight-lipped expression of professional annoyance. "I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. What's wrong?" "I'm going to need to see that boarding pass again." Maya sighed, digging into her pocket. This was getting ridiculous. "Here, is there a problem?" Brenda snatched the paper. She stared at it, her brow furrowed. "This ticket," she said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial, accusatory whisper, "is booked under the name Robert Harris, a Mr. Robert Harris." "That's my father," Maya explained, matching her quiet tone. "I'm on his reservation. My name, Maya Harris, is right there, as the additional passenger." Brenda shook her head, a small, triumphant smile playing on her lips. "I'm not seeing that on my manifest. What I see is a high-value ticket booked by one of our platinum members, and then a last-minute addition I can't verify." "I can assure you," Maya said, her voice starting to harden, "it's my seat. I checked in this morning. You can check your system." "Oh, I will be checking the system," Brenda said. Her voice was suddenly louder. Across the aisle, Mr. Jacobs looked up from his Wall Street Journal. In the row behind, a man in 2C with a kind, intelligent face, David Chen, also paused his typing. "The problem is," Brenda continued, now projecting to the cabin, "we have had a serious issue with fraudulent mileage use and unauthorized ticket transfers. It's airline policy. I can't be sure this ticket is valid for you." Maya felt a hot flush of humiliation creep up her neck. "What are you implying? That I stole this ticket?" "I'm not implying anything," Brenda said, her voice a sharp, defensive blade. "I'm stating procedure. You're going to have to come with me to the gate. We need to clear this up, and we can't hold the flight for it. You can take a seat in the back of economy until we verify your ticket." "No," Maya said. Her voice was flat. "I'm not moving. This is my seat. You are the one making the mistake. Please just check your full manifest." Brenda's face hardened. The mask of customer service fell away, revealing a sour, angry impatience. "Ma'am, I am the lead flight attendant on this aircraft. I am responsible for the safety and security of this cabin, and I am telling you, you are not confirmed for this seat." She leaned in, her voice dropping to a low threat. "You have two choices. You walk off this plane with me now, or I will call airport security and have you removed for non-compliance. What's it going to be?" The hum of the auxiliary power unit seemed to grow louder, filling the sudden, tense silence of the cabin. Every eye in first class was now fixed on the confrontation in 1F. Mr. Jacobs in 1D had lowered his newspaper completely. David Chen, the man in 2C, had quietly unlocked his phone, his thumb hovering over the camera icon. He'd seen this script before. Maya's heart was pounding, a hard, angry drum against her ribs. This wasn't just a mistake. This was a choice. Brenda wanted this to be a confrontation. "You're threatening to remove me from a flight," Maya said, her voice dangerously calm, "for sitting in the seat I paid for, and that your own gate agent just scanned and approved 5 minutes ago?" "The gate agent is a junior contractor. I'm telling you what my system says," Brenda retorted, tapping her chest. "And I'm telling you that you are being disruptive. Passengers who don't follow crew member instructions are a security risk." "I'm not being disruptive, you are," Maya shot back, her voice finally rising. "You are harassing me. You're doing it because I'm a teenager and I'm black, and you don't think I belong here." A gasp came from the woman with the dog. Brenda's face went rigid. "How dare you? You're playing the race card? That is the most offensive thing I have ever heard." She straightened up, her voice now a commanding shout. "I am not discriminating. I am following TCA procedure. This is about airline security, not your feelings." She turned and marched 3 steps to the open cabin door. "Trish," she yelled at the gate agent, "call airport security, now. I have a non-compliant passenger in 1F refusing to deplane." "Brenda, no, wait," the young gate agent said, her eyes wide. "Do it. She is a security risk." Brenda turned back to Maya, her face flushed with righteous power. "You have one last chance. Walk off. Now." Across the aisle, David Chen hit record. He held the phone low, resting on his briefcase on his lap, the lens angled perfectly. "I am not walking off this plane," Maya said. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. "You are going to be in a lot of trouble." "Oh, I am," Brenda laughed, a short barking sound. "Honey, you have no idea. I've been doing this job since before you were born. I know the rules." And you're breaking them, said a new voice. David Chen. Brenda wheeled on him. Sir, this is a private crew matter. Please stay out of it. It stopped being a private matter when you shouted for security, David said, his voice polite but firm. He looked at Maya. Young lady, what is your name? Maya Harris. And you're traveling on a valid ticket? Yes, sir. It's on my father's reservation. I fly this route all the time. I see. He looked back at Brenda. Flight attendant, my name is David Chen. I'm a partner at Chen, Miller, and Strauss. And I am formally advising you that you are engaging in what appears to be a clear case of racial bias and unlawful ejection. I am also recording this interaction, as are, I suspect, several other passengers. Brenda's eyes darted around. She was right. 2 other phones were up. She had lost control of the narrative. This only made her angrier. You can record all you want, sir, she spat. It's a violation of airline policy, and you'll be next. This passenger does not have a valid ticket for this seat. She is a seat hopper, and she is trying to intimidate me. 2 airport police officers, big men in dark blue uniforms, their belts heavy with gear, appeared at the jet bridge entrance. This is her, Brenda said, pointing a dramatic finger at Maya. Seat 1F. She's refusing to deplane. We need her off. Now. The officers stepped into the cabin. The aisle was narrow and their presence was overwhelming. One officer, Officer Miller, older with a weary face, looked at Maya. Ma'am, what's the problem here? There is no problem, Maya said, her voice shaking despite her efforts. This is my seat. This flight attendant doesn't believe me. She won't check her system properly. The passenger is non-compliant, Brenda insisted. Her ticket is fraudulent. Okay, ma'am, Officer Miller said to Maya, his hand resting on his belt. We can't have a disturbance. I'm going to have to ask you to gather your belongings and come with us. We can sort this out at the gate. And if I don't? Maya asked, her mind racing. Then we will have to remove you, the officer said, his voice flat. This was it. This was the nightmare scenario her father had always warned her about. Don't make a scene, he'd always said. Your margin for error is 0. Be smarter. Be calmer. But calm wasn't working. Logic wasn't working. This is insane, Maya said, her eyes welling with furious tears. You're all going to let this happen? Ma'am, please, the officer said, taking a step forward. Wait. Maya's voice was sharp. She'd had enough. Her father had given her the ID for emergencies, for security checkpoints that didn't recognize his name, for situations where she was separated from her detail. This felt like that, a personal, targeted security threat. You want my ID? Maya said, her voice dropping. You want to verify who I am? Brenda crossed her arms. A little late for that, honey, but go ahead. Let's see your little high school ID. Maya looked at Brenda. She looked at the 2 police officers. She looked at David Chen, who gave her a single short nod. She reached into her backpack, not for her wallet, but for the small black leather card holder she kept in a zipped inner pocket. She opened it. The officer, Miller, leaned in to look. Brenda, impatient, leaned in too. What is that? Some kind of university pass? Maya said nothing. She simply tilted the holder forward. Inside, behind a clear plastic window, was not a driver's license. It was a dark, official laminate card. At the top, in gold-embossed letters, was the seal of the President of the United States. The silence in the cabin was no longer tense. It was absolute. It was as if the air had been sucked out. Officer Miller, who had been leaning in, physically recoiled, as if he'd touched a hot stove. His hand, which had been resting on his belt, was now at his side, suddenly awkward. Brenda Sullivan, however, was still processing. She squinted, her brain refusing to accept what her eyes were seeing. What is that? Some kind of fake? She reached out and, in a final fatal act of hubris, snatched the leather holder from Maya's hand. She held it up to her face. The card was stark and unmistakable. It featured Maya's photograph, looking serious and professional. Her name, Maya R. Harris, was printed below it, but it was the other text that mattered. At the top, United States of America, dependent. Below the photo, White House access, cleared. And at the bottom, the issuing authority, U.S. Secret Service. Brenda's breath hitched. Her entire body went rigid. The color drained from her face, leaving behind a pasty, mottled gray under her foundation. Her lipstick-caked mouth opened and closed silently, like a fish pulled from water. Her hand holding the ID began to tremble violently. Officer Miller spoke, his voice a low, urgent rumble. "Brenda, give the ID back to the young lady, now." But Brenda couldn't move. She was frozen, staring at the small plastic card that had just detonated her entire reality. Maya, her voice as cold and sharp as chipped ice, held out her hand. "My ID, please." Brenda's eyes slowly lifted from the card to Maya's face. The sneering, condescending honey was gone. The righteous, rule-following manager was gone. All that was left was a terrified, hollow-eyed woman who had just realized she had not just threatened a passenger. She had threatened the daughter of one of the most powerful men in the country. She had, in fact, called security on a person with a higher security clearance than the airport police themselves. With a shaking hand, Brenda handed the ID back. "My full name," Maya said, her voice clear and cutting, projecting through the silent cabin, "is Maya Harris. My father is Robert Harris. He is the senior advisor to the President of the United States. We live in Georgetown. We fly this route twice a month to visit my aunt in Los Angeles. My secure flight data and my known traveler number, which are linked to my Department of Homeland Security file, have been in your system since the moment my father's assistant booked this ticket 3 weeks ago." She paused, letting the words hang in the air. "You didn't have to verify anything. You just had to do your job and read the manifest. But you chose to harass me. You chose to accuse me of fraud, and you chose to call the police on me." She looked past Brenda to the two officers, who now looked deeply, profoundly uncomfortable. "Officers, am I free to go, or am I still a security risk?" Officer Miller cleared his throat, his face red. "Ma'am, Ms. Harris, there's been a misunderstanding. We were just responding to the crew's request." "Your crew member," David Chen's voice cut in, clear and precise, "made a false report. She knowingly lied to law enforcement to have a passenger removed under false pretenses. That's a crime." Brenda finally found her voice. It was a pathetic, high-pitched squeak. "No, I didn't know. I had no idea. I was just procedure. It's just procedure." "It stopped being procedure," Maya said, "the moment you decided I didn't belong here." The cabin door, which had been open this whole time, now admitted a new, authoritative figure. Captain Miller, the pilot, a man with graying hair and a crisp uniform, pushed past the officers. He had clearly been called from the cockpit. "What in God's name is going on here? We are 3 minutes past our pushback time. Why are there police in my cabin?" Brenda Sullivan, tears now streaming down her face, ruining her mascara, tried to speak. "Captain, there was a ticket mismatch." "A ticket mismatch?" Captain Miller boomed. He looked at Maya, then at the White House ID she still held in her hand. He was ex-Air Force. He recognized government credentials instantly. His face turned to pure, unadulterated ice. He didn't look at Maya. He didn't look at the police. He stared directly at Brenda Sullivan. "Brenda, go to the back galley. Do not come out. Do not speak to another passenger. Do not touch the service. You are relieved of your duties." "Captain, please, I was just—" "Now!" he roared. Brenda flinched as if struck. She stumbled backward, bumping into the other flight attendant, and all but ran to the curtain that separated first class from the main cabin, disappearing behind it. Captain Miller then turned to the police. "Officers, thank you for your time. Your services are not required. We are secure." "Yes, sir," Officer Miller said, looking relieved to be escaping. He and his partner backed out of the plane. Finally, the captain turned to Maya. He was a large man, but he crouched slightly in the aisle, bringing himself down to her level. His entire demeanor changed from rage to deep professional contrition. "Ms. Harris, on behalf of Transcontinental Airlines and as the captain of this aircraft, I offer you my deepest, most profound apology. What you just experienced is inexcusable. It is not our policy. It is not who we are. And I give you my personal word that this will be handled with the utmost severity." Maya just nodded, the adrenaline beginning to recede, leaving her shaking and exhausted. "Thank you, Captain." He nodded crisply. "Can I get you anything? Water?" "I'm okay. I just want to go, she whispered. Right. He stood up and addressed the cabin. Folks, apologies for the delay. We will be closing the cabin door and pushing back in 2 minutes. He disappeared into the cockpit. David Chen in 2C gave Maya a look of profound respect and concern. He held up his phone and mouthed, I have it all. Maya leaned her head back against the seat and closed her eyes. The image of Brenda's frozen, horrified face seared into her mind. The flight to Los Angeles had just begun. The cabin door closed with a heavy, pressurized thunk. The safety video began to play on the seatback screens. The cheerful, smiling actors, a grotesque contrast to the drama that had just unfolded. A new flight attendant, a young man named Alex who looked barely 20 and was vibrating with nervousness, came through the cabin. Ms. Harris, he whispered, crouching by her seat. The captain sent me. He wanted to know if you'd like, I don't know, a full can of soda? Free champagne? I mean, you're 17, but anything? Free Wi-Fi for the flight? I can get you the code. The Wi-Fi code would be great, thank you, Alex, Maya said, giving him a small, weary smile. He looked so terrified she felt bad for him. He was just collateral damage. Right away, Ms. Harris. He practically ran to the galley. Mr. Jacobs in 1D, the man with the scotch, leaned across the aisle. That was quite something, young lady, he said, his voice gruff but not unkind. You handled that better than I would have. That woman was, well, she was out of line. Completely. Thank you, sir, Maya said. The plane pushed back, taxied, and took off with a powerful, roaring ascent, banking over the Potomac. Maya watched the familiar monuments of D.C. shrink below her. She felt strangely disconnected, as if she were watching herself from outside her own body. Alex returned with a handwritten card. On it was the Wi-Fi access code. This is the high-speed pass. Compliments of the captain, he said. And please let me know if you need anything. Maya logged on. The first thing she did was send a text to her father's chief of staff, not her father. There was a protocol for this. Maya. Hi, Sarah. Had an incident on TCA 212. A flight attendant tried to have me removed, accused me of ticket fraud, had to involve airport police. Showed my WHID to resolve. A passenger in 2C, David Chen, has video. The reply was almost instantaneous. Sarah. Are you safe? Maya. Yes. Captain stepped in. Flight attendant is in the back galley. I'm fine, just shaken. Sarah. Okay, I'm handling it. We will have people meet you at LAX. Do not talk to anyone from the airline on the ground. Dad is in a meeting. I'll tell him when he's out. I'm so sorry, Maya. Maya. It's not your fault. Thanks, Sarah. Having sent the text, Maya felt a layer of responsibility lift. It was out of her hands now, in the hands of the people who handle things. Across the aisle, David Chen was also on the Wi-Fi, his laptop open, his fingers flying across the keys. He was not, as Maya might have assumed, uploading the video to YouTube. He was a lawyer, and he was methodical. He uploaded the 4-minute high-definition video file to his firm's secure cloud server. He then composed an email. To Rachel.LevinaWashPost.com. Subject, exclusive video, TCA flight attendant, harasses, threatens, WH advisor's daughter on DCA LAX flight body. Rachel, you're not going to believe what I just witnessed on TCA 212. A senior flight attendant, Brenda, just tried to have a 17-year-old black girl removed from first class, accusing her of fraud. The girl is Maya Harris, Robert Harris's daughter. The FA called the cops on her. The encounter ended when Ms. Harris was forced to flash her White House ID. I have the entire thing on video. It is explosive. I'm sending a secure link. Call me on my cell when we land. We're about 4.5 hours out. David. He hit send. Rachel Levine was one of the Washington Post's top national reporters. He knew her from a fundraiser. For the next 4 hours, the first-class cabin was a strange, quiet place. Alex, the young attendant, served the meal with trembling hands. He gave Maya extra-large portions of everything. He avoided the curtain to the back galley as if it were radioactive. From behind that curtain, however, came noise. Twice, Maya heard a muffled, hysterical sob. About 3 hours into the flight, during a patch of turbulence, she heard a loud crash from the back galley, as if a metal cart had been slammed into a wall, followed by a string of low, furious curses. Brenda Sullivan was not handling her banishment well. She was, in fact, having a complete breakdown. In her tiny windowless prison, surrounded by soda cans and miniature bottles of liquor, Brenda was vibrating with a toxic cocktail of rage and terror. How could this have happened? That girl, that child, in a hoodie, tricking her. It was a setup. They were trying to get her fired. She'd been on her phone, service be damned, texting her union rep. Brenda, they're trying to fire me. A passenger got aggressive, I called security, and now the captain has relieved me. It was a setup. Rep, Brenda, calm down. What happened? Brenda, this girl in 1F, a seat hopper, I called her on it. She refused to move. She had some kind of fake ID, said she was from the White House. The captain bought it. He's got me in the galley. Rep, Brenda, what do you mean fake ID? Brenda, it looked official, but it had to be. She was just a kid, a black kid in a sweatshirt. Rep, Brenda, stop talking. Do not text me. Do not talk to the captain. Do not talk to anyone. We will talk when you land. But if you are telling me you challenged a WH credential, just be quiet. My God. The my God chilled Brenda more than the captain's shout. She threw her phone against the galley wall, where it clattered into a sink. That was the crash Maya had heard. Brenda was trapped at 35,000 feet, flying at 500 miles per hour toward a fate she couldn't comprehend. She had never been wrong. In 28 years, she had never been this wrong. And the person she had been wrong about was not some anonymous passenger she could bully into submission. She had tried to remove a piece of the United States government. Up in the cabin, Maya tried to sleep, but her mind was racing. She felt the stares of the other passengers, but they were different now. They weren't looks of suspicion. They were looks of awe, pity, and curiosity. She was no longer an anomaly. She was the star of a drama. The man in 1D, Mr. Jacobs, was now on his own phone, and Maya overheard a snippet of his conversation. You won't believe what happened on my flight. No, I'm serious. Robert Harris's girl. Yeah, the flight attendant tried to arrest her. I know. TCA stock is going to tank. I'm dumping my shares the second we land. Maya closed her eyes. It was happening. The boulder she had pushed was starting to roll downhill, and it was getting bigger. The descent into Los Angeles was hazy and hot. The plane dipped through the marine layer, and the sprawling grid of the city appeared. The captain's voice came over the intercom, announcing their arrival. His tone the same bland, professional monotone as always. But as they taxied to the gate at LAX, he made one final unusual announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be at the gate in just a moment. We ask that all passengers please remain in their seats until our first-class passenger in 1F, Ms. Harris, and her party have deplaned. We appreciate your patience. A low murmur went through the entire plane. Maya sank lower in her seat, her face burning. She didn't want this. She didn't want to be special. She just wanted to be normal. David Chen leaned forward from his seat as the plane docked. Ms. Harris, Maya, my car is waiting. If your ride isn't here, or if you need any help, I'd be happy to escort you. Thank you, Mr. Chen. My aunt is meeting me. But can I get your card? Absolutely. He handed her a crisp, heavy stock business card. Call me for anything. What that woman did was wrong. What the airline did was wrong. Thank you for everything, for speaking up. Anytime. The jet bridge connected and the door was opened. Alex, the young flight attendant, stood by the curtain to the back galley, effectively acting as a guard. He nodded to Maya. You can go ahead, Miss Harris. Maya grabbed her backpack, her hands slick with sweat. She stepped into the jet bridge, expecting to see her Aunt Clara holding a "Welcome to LA" sign. That is not what she saw. The jet bridge was packed. Standing there looking profoundly uncomfortable in expensive suits were three people, two men and a woman. They had the tight, panicked smiles of corporate executives in crisis. Ms. Harris, the lead man said, stepping forward. He was older with a bald head and a sweaty upper lip. I'm Paul Jenkins, Vice President of West Coast Operations for Transcontinental Airlines. This is Cynthia Lowe, our head of corporate security, and Maya just held up a hand. The gesture was small, but it stopped him cold. She was channeling her father. When he was in a briefing and someone was wasting his time, he'd just hold up a hand. "Mr. Jenkins," Maya said, her voice sounding far more adult than she felt. "I've been on a plane for 5 hours. I am not interested in a conversation right now. My father's office has been notified. You can direct all your communications to Sarah Kiernan at the White House. She will be in touch." Paul Jenkins' face went white. He had been hoping to handle this on the ground. Get ahead of it. Offer a groveling apology and $100,000 in flight vouchers. The news that the White House was already formally involved was his worst-case scenario. "Of course, Ms. Harris, we just wanted to offer our sincere apologies and provide a private car for you." "I have a ride," Maya said. "Now, please, I'd like to see my aunt." The executives parted like the Red Sea. Maya walked past them. Behind her, she heard David Chen exit the plane. "Mr. Chen," Paul Jenkins said, pivoting. "Mr. David Chen?" "That's me," David said, holding up his phone, the screen showing the video file. "And I'm Ms. Harris's legal counsel. You can direct your communications to my office. You'll be hearing from us." He walked past them, following Maya. Maya emerged into the terminal. It was pandemonium. It wasn't just her Aunt Clara. There were reporters, 3 camera crews. They were being held back by airport police. Her aunt, a warm woman with the same eyes as Maya's mother, broke through and ran to her. "Maya! Oh, baby, are you okay?" She hugged her so tightly Maya could barely breathe. "I'm fine, Auntie. How did they know?" "It's everywhere, honey," Clara whispered, guiding her toward the exit. "It's on the news, the Washington Post." David Chen was right beside them, acting as a buffer. "This way, Ms. Harris." A reporter shouted, "Maya, Maya, what did the flight attendant say to you? Was it a racial slur?" "Ms. Harris, will your father be pressing charges?" Maya kept her head down, her aunt's arm around her, and walked. David Chen turned to the cameras. "Ms. Harris has no comment at this time, but I will. The video of this disgraceful, discriminatory incident will be released by my office shortly. Transcontinental Airlines has some serious questions to answer." They made it to the escalator. Back at the gate, the last passenger deplaned. The cabin was empty. Finally, Captain Miller came out of the cockpit. He walked to the back galley and pulled back the curtain. Brenda Sullivan was sitting on an Atlas case, her face a ruin of smeared makeup and tears. She looked up, her eyes full of desperate, terrified hope. "Captain, it was a misunderstanding. Please, you have to tell them. I've been with TCA for 28 years. 28 years. Captain Miller looked at her, his face devoid of any emotion. "Brenda, airport security is waiting for you on the tarmac. You'll be escorted to the Employee Holding Center. Human Resources and the corporate legal team are flying in from Dallas. You are suspended without pay, effective immediately. Do not contact any other crew members. Do not leave your house. Hand me your employee credentials." It was a death sentence. "No," Brenda whispered. "No, it was a mistake. Please, Robert. You've known me for 10 years. It was a mistake." "It stopped being a mistake when you called the police on a minor, Brenda," the captain said, his voice low. "You brought law enforcement onto my aircraft for a non-existent threat. You endangered a passenger. You humiliated this company. And you did it all, from what I'm told, because you didn't like the color of her skin or the hoodie she was wearing." He held out his hand. "Your credentials. Now." Sobbing, Brenda Sullivan unclipped the ID from her uniform and handed over the wings that had been her entire life. She was escorted not through the terminal, but down the cold metal stairs to the tarmac, where a security car was waiting, its lights flashing in the twilight. The story didn't just break, it exploded. By the time Maya was eating dinner with her aunt in Laurel Canyon, David Chen's video had been released by the Washington Post. It was 4 minutes of raw, unfiltered discrimination. The audio was crystal clear. Brenda's sneering, "Are you sure? This is first class." Her escalating threats, "I will have to call security," and Maya's terrified, steady voice. But the real money shot was the freeze. The moment Brenda Sullivan's face went from smug superiority to ashen terror, it became an instant, viral GIF captioned, "The moment she realized she messed with the wrong one." The fallout was immediate and catastrophic. Day 1, the media storm. TCA, or Transcontinental Airlines, was not just any airline. It was a legacy carrier, already struggling with debt and a reputation for poor service. By the time the market opened in New York the next morning, Yashasha boycott TCA was the #1 trend on Twitter. Every morning show, from Good Morning America to the Today Show, led with the story. They played the video. They had aviation experts, civil rights leaders, and even other black women who had traveling while black stories. TCA's stock, NYSE TCA, plunged. It opened down 12%, and the slide didn't stop. By noon, it was down 22%. In 6 hours, over $650 million of the company's market value had been vaporized, all because Brenda Sullivan didn't believe a black girl belonged in seat 1F. The CEO of Transcontinental, Mark Davidson, was forced to issue a public video apology. He looked like a man who hadn't slept. What occurred on Flight 212 is not who we are. Ms. Sullivan has been terminated, effective immediately. It wasn't enough. The legal Armageddon, David Chen and Robert Harris's office, were not interested in a simple firing. This wasn't about one employee. "This is not a bad apple problem," David Chen said at a press conference, with Maya and her aunt standing silently beside him. "This is a rotten tree problem. We are not seeking just compensation for Ms. Harris. We are seeking systemic, court-ordered change." They filed a massive multi-million-dollar lawsuit against TCA, not just for discrimination, but for negligent hiring, improper training, and for fostering a corporate culture that allowed bias to flourish. The hard karma twist, this is where the real karma hit. The lawsuit's discovery phase, led by David Chen's team, was brutal. They subpoenaed Brenda Sullivan's entire employment file, and they found it. Brenda's file was a horror show. In her 28 years, she had over 70 formal passenger complaints filed against her. David's legal team analyzed the data. 68 of those complaints, 97%, were from passengers of color. They were complaints of rude service, unwarranted scrutiny, aggressive tone, and in 12 different instances, baseless accusations of ticket fraud. Brenda was a serial abuser, and TCA had known. The second head to roll. The next logical question was, who knew? Who saw these 70 complaints and did nothing? The discovery team found the signature. Every single complaint had been resolved and dismissed by the same person. Tom Riley, the DC regional in-flight manager, Brenda's direct supervisor, and as it turned out, a very close personal friend. Tom Riley had buried every complaint against his friend for 2 decades. He was fired within an hour of the documents being filed in court. He tried to claim he was a scapegoat, but the evidence was overwhelming. He was named as a co-conspirator in the lawsuit. The final collapse. The lawsuit, combined with the stock crash and the nationwide boycott, was a death blow. TCA was already on thin ice financially. This was the push it needed. 3 months after Flight 212, Transcontinental Airlines filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The karma wasn't just that Brenda got fired. Her actions, her decades of unchecked racism, had literally destroyed the multi-billion-dollar company that had protected her. Brenda Sullivan herself was finished. She was toxic. No airline would ever hire her. She was forced to sell her condo to pay her legal bills. Her name was synonymous with viral, career-ending racism. She lost her job, her reputation, her pension, and her friends. She had become a pariah, all from a procedure she invented. The CEO, Mark Davidson, was forced out by the board. The airline was eventually bought for pennies on the dollar by a larger carrier, its name and logo erased from the skies. The hard karma wasn't just a firing, it was an extinction. 1 year later, the world was different, and so was Maya Harris. The quad at Stanford University was a sea of green grass and hurried, brilliant minds. Maya, now 18, sat under a large oak, a heavy constitutional law textbook open on her lap. She was no longer a girl in a hopeful hoodie. She was a freshman whose presence commanded a quiet, unstated respect. The incident on Flight 212 had not defined her, but it had refined her. It had burned away her teenage diffidence and forged a core of steel. In her seminar group earlier that day, a debate had sparked over corporate personhood and accountability. A pre-law senior had been arguing a theoretical point. And Maya had simply interjected, "Theoretically, yes, but in practice, corporate culture acts as a shield for individual prejudice. And the only way to penetrate it is to make the liability so financially catastrophic that the board has no choice but to enact systemic change." The entire table had gone silent. Her professor had just nodded, slowly. "Go on, Ms. Harris." She was reluctantly a public figure. Her anonymity was gone, a casualty of the viral video. Students sometimes pointed, whispering, "That's her, the TCA girl." But the whispers were no longer of suspicion, as they had been at DCA. They were of awe. She had become the accidental but powerful face of the traveling while black movement. She'd written op-eds for the Post, dissecting the procedural language of bias. She had learned to wield the power that had been thrust upon her, not with the hot rage she felt that day, but with the cool, lethal precision her father used in his work. The lawsuit, as predicted, had been the final nail in Transcontinental's coffin. As part of the bankruptcy, it was settled for a massive, undisclosed sum, but Maya and her father hadn't been interested in the money for themselves. At the press conference announcing the settlement, standing beside David Chen, Maya had announced the formation of the Clara Harris Foundation, named for the late mother she barely remembered, but whose portraits always showed a woman with a kind, inclusive smile. The foundation's mission was twofold. First, it funded the development and mandatory implementation of new, industry-wide implicit bias and de-escalation training. The TCA protocol, as it was grimly nicknamed, became a new standard, forcing airlines to unlearn a culture of suspicion. Second, it provided massive scholarships for minority students, women, people of color, LGBTQ youth, pursuing careers in aviation and corporate law. "We have to build a new system from the inside out," she'd said in her speech, her voice never wavering. David Chen, who now sat on the foundation's board, had become her mentor. He sent her texts not just about the foundation's work, but about her law school prep. "Maya," he'd written last week, "the first scholarships just went out. We have pilots, lawyers, and 2 engineers. We're changing the game." And what of the game's original player? What of the source of the rot? Brenda Sullivan's fate was a quiet, pathetic fizzle, not an explosion. The world last saw her not in a courtroom, but in a grainy 30-second TikTok. The video was filmed by a shopper at a Dollar World in a rundown strip mall in suburban Maryland. The harsh, fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, reflecting off the cheap plastic toys and expired holiday candy. Brenda stood behind a cash register, wearing a shapeless red polyester vest that strained at the buttons. Her hair was no longer a blonde helmet. It was thin, greasy, and dyed a brassy, desperate color. Her face was puffy, her eyes dead. She was in a heated argument with a young mother who was holding a crying baby in a coupon. "I can't take this." Brenda's voice, still that same sharp, nasal whine, cut through the baby's cries. "It's expired. It's against policy." "It expired yesterday," the mother pleaded. "Can't you just make an exception? It's just for formula." "I don't make exceptions," Brenda spat, her eyes flashing with that old, familiar, petty tyranny. "I follow procedure. If you people can't read the dates, that's not my problem." The video was captioned, "Karen has a meltdown over a coupon." The comments were flooded. "Wait, isn't that the TCA flight attendant?" "OMG, it is. From the White House ID to the Dollar World. That's what I call karma." Brenda had learned nothing. She was still a prisoner of the procedures she used to justify her own bitterness. But her world had shrunk from a first-class cabin to a 4-foot-wide checkout lane. She was a ghost, irrelevant, her power to harm anyone beyond a tired mother with a coupon utterly extinguished. The final scene, the true closing of the loop, came just before Christmas. Maya was flying home from San Francisco to D.C. for the holidays. As she walked down the jet bridge, she felt the familiar, low-grade jolt of anxiety, a muscle memory of trauma. She was, of course, on a different airline. She found her seat in first class, a welcome home gift from her father. She steeled herself, organized her carry-on, and tried to disappear into her con law textbook. A flight attendant approached her. She was a young black woman, her hair in neat, professional twists, her smile bright and completely, genuinely warm. "Welcome aboard, ma'am," the attendant said. "Can I get you a water or an orange juice before we take off? My name is Keisha. I'll be taking care of the cabin today." "Water would be great, thank you, Keisha," Maya said, her body relaxing. The service was effortless, professional, normal. Keisha returned with the water. She paused, looking at Maya for a second longer, a look of dawning recognition on her face. "Excuse me, ma'am," Keisha said, her voice dropping slightly. "This is going to sound crazy, but are you Maya Harris?" Maya's stomach tightened. "Yes, I am." Keisha's face broke into a smile so wide it lit up the cabin. "Oh my goodness, I thought that was you. I have to thank you." "Thank me?" Maya asked, confused. "My name is Keisha Moore," the attendant said, crouching in the aisle, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm one of the first recipients of the Clara Harris Foundation Scholarship. I just got my wings last month." Maya's textbook fell shut. She just stared. "I've wanted to be a flight attendant since I was a little girl," Keisha continued, her eyes shining. "But flight school is expensive. And honestly, after what I saw happen to you, what I've seen happen to so many people, I almost gave up. I thought, that world isn't for me. They don't want us there." She gestured to her uniform. "Your foundation, it's not just the money. It was the proof. It was the proof that we belong here, that someone was fighting to make this space safe for us." She swallowed, straightening up as another passenger boarded. Thank you for what you did. You changed the whole game." Maya couldn't speak. All the anger, the humiliation, the cold fury of that day on Flight 212, it all just dissolved. It was replaced by a profound, warming sense of peace. The cycle was broken. The hard karma wasn't just about Brenda's punishment, it was about Keisha's victory. A slow, genuine smile spread across Maya's face, the first one that had reached her eyes on an airplane in over a year. "Welcome to the skies, Keisha," Maya said, her voice a little thick. "I'm the one who's thankful. I'm really happy you're here." The cabin door closed. The plane pushed back, and with a powerful, smooth ascent, it rose into the clear, night sky, heading east. Maya looked out the window at the lights of the city falling away, and for the first time, she didn't feel like a target. She felt like she was home. The story of Maya Harris isn't just about one racist flight attendant. It's about a system that protected her until it couldn't. It's about the power of a single person, a single video, and a single unshakable ID to expose the truth. Brenda Sullivan's procedure cost her everything: her job, her pension, and her company. The hard karma hit back, and it hit back at a corporate level. What do you think? Was this karma deserved? Was the airline's collapse the only way to get justice? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. This was a wild one, and if you want to hear more real-life stories where the powerful finally get what's coming to them, make sure you hit that like button, share this video with a friend, and subscribe to the channel. Your support means everything. Thanks for listening.